Hey everybody, I have Beck here from Neurodivergent. I hope you've had a great week. I sure have. It was a long week actually. We got pretty sick on the weekend and we just sort of existed. The kids are still home today. It's Monday today while I film the intro and I just wanted to get it done, I guess. Have life, right? This interview with Beck was awesome. She's had a pretty interesting life. Growing up and then finding out you're adopted and stuff would be so hard to deal with. And I relate to that because I've only ever really had one parent, so the other parent was kind of adoptive in that, right? I just think what Beck's doing and putting out there with Needy Neurodivergent and her whole just sort of ideology about healing out loud and sharing your healing journey and sharing your story resonated with me so deeply because that's a big part of my life and my journey, right? So it's pretty straightforward. We're just going to get into it. See what the cards want to say for this. Ooh, threw it out. The Time Master. So just a master of your time, a master of yourself, and I see how that resonates in this story because it's just kind of like that's life and mastering, like you learn how to master time as you go through your life, and it works in different ways, and we all have our own different stories with it. I think that's how that really resonates with me anyway. I'm Alice Michael. I'm 35 years old. I am a person of gender fluid experience. I am going through a trans feminine journey with my avatar and myself, and I live in the city of Grande Prairie, Alberta, Canada, on the territory of Treaty 8, and I acknowledge the Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis people as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. I can't take back what's been done, but I do hope to do my part to make the world a better place for us all, and this is just one way I do that, one way that I can share people's stories, and one way that I can tell people. I hope that shows through, and I hope that people see that. Any hype, put them in the comments. If you're liking this, give it a like. If you're enjoying what I'm doing, give me a subscribe and hit that bell notification, or just make sure you get the notification, right? Any sort of information on Needy Neurodivergent and Beck is going to be down below, and I'm really excited because I'm also going to interview her partner, which is super cool. And yeah, they share their story with me, and I think it's really great. So here we go. Let's get into it. Okay, everybody, I have Beck here from Needy Neurodivergent. I ran across her and reached out to her and wanted to give an interview. So Beck, if you can just give everybody your age, your gender identity, and your location, then we can go from there.
Sure. I am 45 and my pronouns are she, her, and they, them. I'm a cisgender woman. I live near Vancouver in British Columbia.
My homeland. I keep finding people from around there. My interview that went out yesterday, Shakelin, she's from, I think it was Gibson Island.
I think so.
Yeah, so she's right close.
Where you were born in Nanaimo, is that right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
where
I
were you
love the
born?
community. I was born near Vancouver. I've been here my whole life except for about 7 years when I lived in Alberta. So
Oh yeah, Alberta represent. Us BC people got to come here at some point, right?
well, we do because BC means bring cash. So
It's true. Although that means the same here now. Yeah. Forget about it. It's on the floor now. I'll find it later. So you grew up around Vancouver. How was that?
it was good until I was about 10. I lived somewhere called North Delta, and then we moved to Abbotsford. And that move was really tough because as a neurodivergent child, undiagnosed neurodivergent child, I had a really hard time making friends. And the friends that I did have that I had grown up with my whole life, I just assumed wherever I was, I would have friends. And when I moved, I had no skills. I had no way to make friends. And so I ended up being very, very lonely in my new school. And until grade 8, when I started high school and on the first day met my best friend. And that was life changing.
Yeah, I bet. That's wonderful. Hey? Yeah. It's always nice to find those people that you can really connect with and just sort of develop that. I definitely
Even if you can connect with one person, It makes so much difference.
Oh, absolutely. One person can carry you through. The last 2 years have been really, really hard on my end, and I had that one person that just kind of was always there, and it made such a difference. Like, it was like, okay, I can keep going. I have this one person I can talk to. Yeah, yeah. So you moved to Abbotsford when you were around 10. I
Mhm.
moved to Abbotsford when I was 5 months old, 6 months old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't even know
Okay.
how long I lived there, but that would have been the early 90s. Yeah. And then it was up north after that.
So you grew
So,
up up north?
yeah, for the sure. Like I don't really have any memories from earlier than when I
Hmm.
was up here. It just kind of everything started up here, and then I always went home because it's still home to me, right? Like I
Yeah.
go down to the west coast, and there's, as a plane is landing in Comox, there's a threshold, and all of a sudden I'm home, right? Like,
Okay.
yeah. So, and like home life was pretty good growing up.
Well, I was adopted, so I have a lot of trauma from, realizing that I was adopted. My parents are amazing. My parents are amazing, but doesn't matter how good your parents are, there's always that part of yourself that always wonders why there was the choice made to put myself up for adoption. But now I know, I've connected with, actually, I have 10 siblings.
Wow.
10 biological siblings, all the same mother. All of them live in the United States except for me. She came up here, she had me, she went back to the States. So I'm the only Canadian of the bunch. I was the oldest, so I always was told that there were no siblings. And then I got to a certain age, I went on Ancestry DNA and ended up finding my first biological brother. So that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I bet.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and then I had, a lot of self-esteem issues from the adoption and discovering that I was adopted. And so ended up starting to go and see a child psychologist then because I was dealing with a lot of feelings. And then once we moved to Abbotsford, my brother passed away. So that was another huge trauma for us. And seeing your parents go through that kind of unimaginable grief, it changed me. It made me decide that right then and there I was going to be the good kid. I wasn't going to cause my parents any more pain than they were already in. And so I really took that on as being the best at everything, getting good grades, not, getting into trouble, making sure I was quiet and didn't ruffle any feathers, didn't, do the typical teenage rebellion. So I feel like I kind of missed out on that. And so now, a couple of years ago, I got to the point where I was like, well, what the heck? I'm 40, I think it was 42. And I thought, well, I've been alive for 42 years. When am I going to stop this? When am I going to start loving myself? And that's where Needy Neurodivergent came from. I discovered that I am neurodivergent. I do not have an official diagnosis of autism, but I do have one for ADHD. And
Same here.
yeah. And so that was a huge turning point for me in self-discovery and connecting with other people that are like me, because I always felt like there was nobody like me my whole entire life. And to connect with people like yourself. And, I just, my whole thing with Needy Neurodivergent is I want to build a community of people that just hold space for each other, where you can be yourself, where you can talk about your mental health struggles and people aren't going to judge you. We have a Facebook group called Healing Loudly, and that's what it's all about. Just come and be there because mental health services are so far and far between, and I can't think of the word. They're few and far between. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's really cost prohibitive for some people to seek mental health, and while we can't be a professional for other people, we can be community and hold space, and that's my goal. Is for
Yeah,
us to,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
hold space and share stories and share lived experience, because that lived experience is really important, right? Like you can learn a lot from listening to someone else's lived experience. That's why I like this. That's why I was like I'm going to do this, because the more of those stories we hear, the more people will run across it who resonate with those stories and relate to them, and then they're able to kind of come to terms with it, right? Like
Yeah.
I really relate to you being adopted, even though I wasn't adopted by my mom, but my dad was never there, right? So there's just like when that happens, it's like an instant, okay, you have abandonment things to work on and you have neglect things to work on because there's a parent who's not there. Or in your case, you had two parents who were there, but they're not the OGs. They're not the original parents, right? Yeah.
And even, if you study child psychology, even those first 6 months of life are so important. And so when a baby bonds with their first, um, caregivers, and then all of a sudden those caregivers aren't there anymore, there is going to be that abandonment issue, whether you can remember it or not.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. 100%. I agree with that. Yeah. My I don't know. I lost it. It's just disappeared. ADHD perks.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. How are you feeling about your individual, like, would you self-identify with the autistic community?
Yes, I do. I am
Yeah.
I am self-diagnosed. That's what I say. And, that's why I like to say neurodivergent discovery rather than diagnosis, because that, as well as mental health, is really, really an uphill battle to get any type of diagnosis, especially on the autism spectrum. Where I live, there are very few people who even do it. And if they do, it's thousands of dollars. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I know my truth, so there's no way I can, even psychologically, to go through that process is a lot. From people I've talked to that have gone through and gotten their formal diagnosis, it's a lot to
Yeah.
even deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I went through the free diagnosis process here in Alberta. Like, I talked to my GP and he set me up with a referral and they called me and it was a free assessment and it was kind of a joke. It was like 3 questions and they didn't, I couldn't see the correlation between them, but they were like, no, like, based on those 3 questions, you're not autistic. You definitely have ADHD though. And I was like, how could you determine that from 3 questions on any grounds? Like, you can't. Like, I've taken the Cat 5 and I aced that test. And I was like, aren't we going to do something like that? And she was like, no. Like, it takes too much time for what a free assessment is because they only have like 15 minutes per patient, right? And it's just like, you can't, I don't understand how a doctor could diagnose somebody with anything in 15 minutes. Like,
No.
working in the healthcare profession, I don't understand it.
And when I went to my doctor and I said, listen, I believe I have ADHD. Can we talk about this? And she said, you know what? There are so many people coming to me now with the same story that, yes, we'll talk about it. So we did the assessment. And the thing you need to do, if you go into one of those assessments, the thing that you need to really remember is they're asking about how you do things. Like, for example, they would ask me, do you have trouble, when you're in a meeting, do you have to get up and walk around and blah, blah, blah? I'm like, I've conditioned myself not to. So
Yeah.
no, I don't do. If you're using your tools in order to do it, that means you're still having trouble with that.
Yeah,
So it's something to
absolutely. Yeah,
keep in
you've got to
mind.
use the tools and you've got a mask and like does it take recovery time after? Because if a meeting takes recovery time after, then you're probably expending more energy into that than you realized, right?
Exactly.
So what led you to Alberta?
Crisis. My husband at the time, he had got a job opportunity out there. And so we picked up and we moved out there and we were there for 7 years. I loved Medicine Hat. It was a beautiful city. It's pretty mild compared to other Alberta cities in the winter. And there was a great community. We were homeschooling at the time and we had a great homeschooling community there. And I miss it so much. But as you and I talked about before, I really believe in my children having a choice in their education. And they got to the point where they decided that they wanted to try public school. And so I couldn't in good conscience say, no, we must continue homeschooling, even though I love it so much.
Yeah.
So I followed their lead and they got to make that decision and it was the best decision for them. So they're very happy.
Yeah, my daughter loves public school and my son hates it. Like, my youngest is like, I just want to do homeschooling. And I'm like, okay, I got to figure out my life a little bit first. Because
I would
like,
take it.
yeah, right now the way it is we would just end up being at home and then like I'm trying to get my disability sorted out and do all these things and take all these steps during the day and having that free time right now when I don't have anybody else to watch them or anything. It'd be a lot. It would be a huge commitment for me to jump into. But COVID taught me a lot about homeschooling because the kids had to stay home. And I only had one in school then. But it was hard. And like really leaning on unschooling is what helped us get him through homeschooling for that temporary period, right? And then even when it was over, he was like, "Get me back in school. I miss my friends." Because like especially with COVID, there was nothing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We were already homeschooling when COVID hit, so it was smooth sailing for us compared to other people. And it was funny because people would say, there were memes that said, "Are you a COVID homeschooler or a regular homeschooler?"
that makes sense. Yeah, I was definitely a COVID homeschooler. And like we did good. Like I don't think he really had any detriments from that. Like he kept up with his schooling enough that we were able to just put him back in. And like there's other issues. He's really neurodivergent too. And like we were in northern Alberta and he was at a Catholic school when he came out as trans. And that caused more issues than switching to homeschooling for a year. So when did you move back from Medicine Hat?
2019, my marriage dissolved and I moved back here because this is where all my family and friends are. And I had more support here, and I've been back here ever since. So I'm enjoying being back near my family, but it's a lot when you're single mom on disability and also working part-time to try and keep a roof over our heads, and it's a lot. So, but life is good right now. I just have so much gratitude for everything that's going on in my life and even the struggles, because there are lessons and we just it's part of life. I mean, part of living.
Yeah, I always try and tell my kids because they're like, I don't want to do that. That's hard. And I always try and remind them that like the hard things are the things that bring us the things we want and the things that bring us the benefit. Because we can sit at home and watch videos and life can be easy, but like then we're not going to the park or we're not going to the pool or we're not doing all those other things, right? Yeah. Life has been crazy. What what a journey. Yeah.
Sure.
So did you have any suspicions that you were neurodivergent before you got diagnosed? Like when did that kind of journey start?
So I think for a lot of us, we see our children or other children in our lives that are presenting the way that we present. And we're like, wait a minute, that's not what I was told autism looks like. Also ADHD, I was told that means you're hyper and you're bouncing off the walls. So that couldn't be me. There were just so many things where I was like, okay, well, that's not me. That's not me. I'll keep looking for if there's anybody else like me. And then I met a young lady that I was working with, and she was everything that I was told autism was not. She had this huge imagination. She loves the planet and she has so much empathy. And I was like, wait a minute. I was told if you are autistic, you can't have empathy for other people, and you can't imagine things which are completely ableist.
Yeah,
And
it's like the general perception. Sorry, it's like the general perception of autism is that it's a combination of Down syndrome and like narcissism. Like that's what I see from external sources, but like from within the community, it's just so diverse, right? And it's such a spectrum, and there's so many different ways that people can present that it's hard to pin down like that.
Yeah, for sure. So when I met her, that was the beginning of it. I also, was talking with one of my best friends, and she said she just got her diagnosis for ADHD. And so we had all these chats about what that actually looks like. And I was like, holy crow, like that's me. So, and then I went to my doctor, got to talk to my doctor, and yeah, we're on this journey right now.
So how long's it been since you got your diagnosis? That was 2019, you said?
2022.
So 2019 was when it kind of started, and then it just took that time, right?
Yeah.
I relate to that. 2019, and especially that like after period when COVID really hit, and then we were all at home and everything's like we really saw the cracks. Mm-hmm. And I talked to my parents about it when I was 14 about being ADHD, and they didn't pursue it. They didn't pursue a diagnosis. I was told to not be lazy and to do better. I took that very literally. And I ran myself into the ground for the next like 15 years. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I did in a way as well. And unfortunately, my worth became connected to my productivity or my grades or how good I was. And I was constantly afraid. To this day, I'm constantly afraid of disappointing people. That's a really hard one for me. That you can be mad at me, that's fine. But if somebody says I'm really disappointed, that just breaks my 12-year-old heart. I feel like part of me stopped aging when I was about 12. That was when my brother died. And I didn't have that whole teenage, I was these experiences that people will say that happened to them when they were a teenager. I go, can't relate. Like I never did any of that. So now as an adult, I'm kind of reliving that. I went through about a year, this past year, maybe 2 years of a little bit of rebellion because I missed all that.
I
So I
understand that.
shaved my head, I got a piercing, I did all these things, and I started doing music again and art and photography. I'm writing again. So it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a wonderful ride to watch. Like I love the content you put out. And I love like the lives you do and just the space you create for people to just have somewhere that's
Oh,
not
thank you.
chaotic and not crazy and it's just a space where people can just go and be and exist. And you're just like there for people. And I don't have a lot of time to jump into those things, but when I can pop in, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. There's also one that my partner does. His name is Uncle Sudra on TikTok, and
Hmm.
he does what he calls the clubhouse, and that's also a place where people can come and hold space for each other. And he's on a lot. So if anybody needs somewhere to go, there's also that place that you can go and just find some people that aren't going to judge you. And there's sometimes some trolls, but they get handled pretty quickly by the mods. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been like the biggest thing that's holding me back from doing lives on TikToks and stuff is that any of the moderation stuff I would have to do.
Yeah.
And while I'm in the middle of trying to do things, it's hard. And I recognize that and I don't want to have that overtake the space. So I don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you have some trusted folks that can be your mods, that yeah, you want to do that before you start doing lives for sure.
Yeah, and it's been hard. It's been a slow build up. When I came out, I kind of lost the whole community. I live where I grew up, and I never see anyone. Like, even if I reach out to people, it's like, oh yeah, I'm busy or whatever. So
And you think that's because of your transition, or is it just because of life, or
it was pretty starkly when I came out as trans that there was like a very definitive line. I wouldn't say that's the reason for everybody, but it was definitely like I think it just made a rift in the communication, and people were kind of scared to talk to me and didn't want to offend me. And I've always been very big and very loud, so I think there's a fear of that. I don't know. I also go out and like on Halloween I walk downtown dressed as a clown. Like I've just got big energy. It's a lot for people sometimes.
I love your energy. And when I came across when I discovered you were doing your beard update for the anti
Yeah, for Transaction Alberta.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Go sign it,
And
people.
yeah, absolutely. Sign that petition. In 2017, somebody very close to me came out as trans, and from that moment, when my eyes were opened to what the lives of a trans person, what they deal with, and what's going on in the world, it is very scary. And I decided I was going to start advocating. So I joined my local Pride organization. I went to a convention kind of conference thing to learn more and be a better ally. That was in Ottawa. That was the biggest thing I've ever done, like going across the country by myself. Little old me, that was quite something. So that was the
Yeah.
beginning, probably, of my dedication to helping trans issues, and it just means so much to me. Sorry, I'm gonna cry.
Oh,
um
it's okay.
then
Yeah.
I saw you and I was like, oh, I really love your energy and love what you're doing. And so here we are.
Yeah, yeah, that beard update was wild. It got pretty crazy there near the end. I was like, I almost held on to get to 200 days, but it had hit the goal and I was done.
Yeah.
197 days of beard was enough for me, which is funny because now it's winter and I'm like, yeah, I can come in a little bit. I don't mind. I got so comfortable with it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great story. And doing something like that convention, that's a huge step as an ally, right? And allyship is it's so important right now. I was having a conversation on Blue Sky this morning with some trans people about how when you're talking to like cis people who don't like get it or don't have the connection or don't understand, it's almost like it kind of sucks that the argument we have to use is if they take our rights, then your rights are next, right?
I don't understand. It shouldn't have to happen to you for you to care.
Yeah, absolutely. We live in like such a diverse, huge world where like if you look through history, there's so many examples of how we did so good at working together and taking care of the planet and taking care of each other that like these steps that they keep putting forward now that are so detrimental it's hard to deal with. And it's hard to just not get mad and like start a fight because that doesn't do anything. Yeah. It just like reinforces there's something wrong with that argument when it's like the thing that's wrong is that like we're being hurt and like attacked. And, yeah. It's wild. So when did you start to identify with they, them pronouns?
That was about 2 years ago too. I just, I am fluid in my gender, and saying that out loud is kind of scary. But yeah, for sure. Most people don't call me they, them, but I have a couple that make a priority of doing it because they know it makes me feel good. So it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like I think we're all non-binary to some degree, right? Like our souls are just souls. We're just energy. Whatever we want to do to express that is just life. Yeah, it's a good part of the journey. What sort of like homeschooling philosophies did you use? Because I'm super curious about that.
Yeah, I am big on unschooling. We were kind of eclectic because we did do some unit studies. I love doing, say my kid is into anime. So we're going to learn all about Japan. We're going to learn about, the language, the culture. We're going to learn about art and how to draw anime and, so many things like that. So I love doing unit studies like that. But mostly we were unschoolers, and I just kind of followed their lead, whatever their interest was or special interest was. We would build something around that. So I miss it so much, if you can not tell.
I can actually. I can see it. Yeah. Doing those kind of unique unit studies and unit plans too would be so interesting. And Japan's such a great place to dive into that, and especially with anime and manga and just like the way that they approach art is so beautiful to me. Like it's really about mastering whatever you want to do to just let that expression come out, right?
I feel like there's so much busy work in public schools and people think that it takes 6 hours a day to homeschool when it really doesn't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like learning is a lifetime thing, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm always doing lifetime learning, and like my kids we're constantly learning things. If they have a question and I don't know the answer, I'll look it up. Even if I do know the answer, it's like, let's look it up because I learned this 15 years ago and it's probably different. Let's look into the little things and see the little differences. And like one of our favorite things to do on the weekend is we watch Ants Canada. And I don't know if you've heard of that channel, but he started as just an ant farm guy that lived in Canada. Okay. And now he owns a mansion in the Philippines, and he's got 2 giant vivariums, like terrariums. Wow. Like he has a huge rainforest floor one that's like 20,000 gallons or something.
Wow.
And then he has an upstairs one. They're connected with a glass tunnel. So the upstairs one is the canopy of the rainforest.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, man, like that's wild.
That's cool.
But like we learn so much. We learn so much about bugs and just different parts of the world. And like he has a huge fire ant colony also in the same room. He's got an ant room that's like bigger than my house. But it's those little things, right? It just keeps us learning and it keeps us growing. And yeah, I think he's planning on adding a third one. Like he's adding a swamp because he got a crocodile, like a caiman, and he put it in Pandora is what he calls it. And now like there's nothing left alive in the water, and it is definitely the keystone species in the aquarium. So he's like, yeah, let's maybe rotate it out because he's got like some baby lizards that were born in there and he doesn't want it to eat them. And
have you ever seen Snake Discovery?
I've watched a lot of snake stuff. I probably have.
Yeah, Snake Discovery is a great one. My daughter loves snakes, and she was really into them. And they have, I don't remember if it's alligator or crocodile that somebody had taken it in as a pet, and then of course that doesn't happen. It doesn't help. It doesn't go well.
No, not really.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we took her in she's got living her best life right now,
Yeah.
and they've got hundreds of snakes and they breed snakes, and it's lots of really educational.
Yeah, super cool. So many fun things in the world to do. Yeah. I'm trying to think of something else that's been really good lately. Oh, we watched Redwall. I don't think that's super educational, but it's a good story.
Maybe
My,
it's educational if you want to be a film director.
yeah, and I think Matthias, like the main character Mouse, is a really good male role model, right? Like, I think so. I think that's why I
Yeah,
connected to the books when I was younger too, because I was like looking for that.
yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. What else do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
I've noticed that you're kind of also a pretty main feature in the clubhouse with Uncle Sudra. Uh, that's just came naturally because you guys were partners, or
Yeah, yeah, there was another creator named Sarah Sims, and she has started what's called the potluck. So every 2 weeks on a Tuesday, I believe, she'll go live with a bunch of people and they'll do the mental health thing. And we were just like, we'd like to do something like that too. Sarah's great and we love what she does. And Sidra has more time, so he's able to do it a lot more. So there's just so many great people doing mental health content and music content. It seems to go hand in hand. There's a lot of music and mental health together, which, music is so healing. It's not really surprising, but
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I love how
yeah.
musically involved you guys are too. Your videos where you're singing and stuff, it's so inspiring to me because it's something I constantly work on. Like
Oh,
singing is some of my vocal training for sure. Yeah.
it's definitely, I've always loved the spotlight. So TikTok's really fun. In the beginning, my biological sister was like, "Are you going to go on TikTok? Are you on TikTok? Are you on TikTok?" And I was like, "No, I don't need another social media platform. Come on." And eventually, I was working with a youth that was addicted to TikTok. And so I kind of started to see what it was all about. And then I started making TikToks and I was like, you know what? There's a really great community here.
Hmm.
And it's been really great. I've connected with a lot of amazing people like yourself. And it's just it's been great.
Yeah, it really has been. It's been one of those like I was pretty hesitant to jump onto TikTok too. And even still I don't like I'm not a big scroller in the feed. Just getting on there and making content and connecting with people has been it's been so good that like why wouldn't I keep doing it? Right? Like
Yeah.
why would I stop? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also on Facebook as Needy Neurodivergent. I've got quite a following there, which is really nice. I love being able to connect with so many people. Yeah, it's been great. And now I'm on Discord. So
Yeah.
we've got to learn Discord.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
it's straightforward. Yeah, I'll
yeah.
send you an invite to my server so you can just kind of learn how the servers work and
Oh, that
stuff.
would be great.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah, it's not even very full either, so it's not like too overwhelming. I go into some of them and I'm like, oh my god, there's 500 people talking right now. Like
Wow.
not in voice chat, they're in the text chats
No,
and like
yeah, yeah.
you'll clear the read log and they all pop back up again and you're like, wow, this
Oh,
is a busy
wow.
server. And it's like, I'll just dabble. I'll take my steps. I'll go slow. Yeah. Even, anytime I add a new server, it's like a slow process before I'll add another one. Just because I want to make sure that I find my roles. That's what I like to do. I like to fill my niches. Like that picture I posted on Facebook today, my silly selfie, like that came from posting it in a Discord because somebody was like, oh, all the people in here are so beautiful, and I was like, thanks. Show you how beautiful all my double chins are, my scratched up lip. Just doing my silly thing.
I love it.
Oh my goodness. So with your youngest still being sick, how old's your oldest? How many kids?
I have four. My oldest is 17.
Dang, I hit
Yeah.
three and I was like, oh my god, what is happening?
Yeah, our last one was a surprise. So
Yay! So what's the gap then between your 6 year old and your next youngest?
I have 6, 11, 15, and 17.
That's not too bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an all right spread. There's a 15-year gap between me and my brother, so it's like we're part of different realities.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. My oldest sister is 8 years older than me, and my brother was 6 years older than me. And it was almost like being an only child because they were busy doing their own stuff and, busy with friends. And here I was, had my own little world.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does become that too, especially when you like the kids take up a lot of time and they take up a lot of energy. They make it a lot of fun. So going back to neurodivergent, because this is about as neurodivergent as a conversation as I think you could get,
Right.
because I'm ADHD and you're ADHD, so the jumping around of conversations
Yeah.
is just part of life. It's the part of how we do things. Can you look back retrospectively at school and see where a diagnosis would have helped?
I mean, I think school was my special interest. Like I put a lot of effort into school. I really struggled with the social aspect, but I loved the teachers. I loved being the teacher's pet. I loved the praise that they would give me. I was addicted to that praise and being the best. If I got an A and it was 86, I would be disappointed. I wanted an A in the 90s. So I think more than anything, just somebody telling me that grades didn't mean anything in the real world. If they had told me that I couldn't possibly be the best at everything, that would have helped. If I had a diagnosis and more, if it could connect with people, more people like me, and it would help me understand myself so much better and not feel lazy, not feel like there was something wrong with me. If I actually knew there were other people like me, I think that would have helped.
Yeah, and just like understanding where those social disconnects are happening, right? Because that's a lot of what makes it, I think, makes it hard as a neurodivergent people to build those social connections with people is that like things run a little differently sometimes, right? It's like somebody tells me something that happens to them and I'm like, oh, that really sucks. And here's a relatable story I have. And then they think I'm trying to take over the conversation when it's like, no, 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 no. I'm just letting you know that I'm able to empathize. Like,
I relate to you. This is me showing that I care by telling you that I can relate to you. And this is a story that happened to me. I'm not trying to make it about me, but
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a continuation. It's an add-on. It's a part of the conversation, right? And then people get, oh
Yeah.
no, you're just trying to take it over. And it's like, well, the only way I'm taking it over is if you let me. Especially like awkward silences. It's like, okay. Words, 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 words. I'm very much that kind. I was like class clowny in school. And I learned to temper that a bit. But like it's always, my mouth is always open. I've always got something to say. I've always got something to add on. And God forbid a teacher says something that's wrong.
And you're going to point it out, right?
Oh, absolutely. And immediately and not delicately. I think I've gotten more tact now, but grade 8 version of me, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for just existing and for being willing to share and care in a digital space. You are putting in good value and you are doing good work.
Thank you. Sometimes I'll get a message from somebody that I didn't even know watches my stuff. They don't like my stuff. They don't do anything. And they'll send me a message saying, I really needed to hear that today. Thank you for what you're doing. And that just makes my life. it's
Yeah.
it's everything. And that's why I keep doing it. Because if there's one person out there that can hear what I have to say and not feel alone, then my job is done.
Yeah, I agree with that. One message like that makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. Like, though, that's what I'm in it for too. I'm not in it to see how many likes I can get or to see how many comments I can get on the post. It's those messages when you see them and you're truly like, oh wow, I like really connected with this person, or I really, whatever I said really spoke to them. And that's what keeps me going. It what keeps the drive of just trying to share the space with people, because
Yeah.
like that's what it is, right? And like I think it's so cool that you're building community, and it like it's one of those things where you're not trying to build community, you're building community for sure. Yeah.
Thank
Like
you.
how many people are in your Facebook group?
Over 1,000.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I know.
That's like 3 times the amount of people in the city I first went to school in. Might be more, honestly. Yeah, like it's wild. I'm just sitting here like proud of you.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, keep it going. Keep it loving. Share that love because you do a good job of it. And I really appreciate your content. I don't like the algorithms pull things away all the time, but when your videos pop up and it's just you being like, "Hey, here's a real 30 seconds. Here's a real minute." Like, oh, it's like, oh yeah.
Oh.
there's just connection, right? And like it's
Love
not this like big grand showmanship of trying to do it either. It's just real life. And then I think you find the real people too.
Yes, yes, for sure. I've made some really great connections. There's somebody actually that I need to try and get on a call with today that has been trying to get a hold of me for a few days, but I've been working like my butt off. So I need to make some time for that today. That's somebody that needs an ear. So
Oh, right on. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, my brain froze.
that's
I was going to say that if you ever need any help with that community, let me know, because
okay.
I would definitely lend a hand. And I can't believe I haven't seen that you do have a Facebook group, because I would be in it. So I'm going to have to
Search
try.
up Healing Loudly. You'll find it.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
Healing Loudly,
absolutely.
Neurodivergent.
I started a Facebook group on my page and then I just kind of like shut it down. So it's there and it's ready, but it's not published, if that makes sense.
Well, it's just another, thing to put on your plate too. It's like, do I have that's what I'm working on right now. I'm going, okay, well, there's Discord and there's Threads and there's Blue Sky and there's all these things. There's Substack. And which thing do I try? Where do I want to put my energy?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm on 5 social medias, or 6, including YouTube, which I forget about. This podcast goes on Spotify, so that's 7. Like it just adds up. It just adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, yeah, I started my Discord server, and that's kind of where I'm comfortable running things, because like I just get lost in Facebook groups sometimes. And I've never ran one of them. Whereas like I've moderated Discord servers, I've admin Discord servers, I've set up a couple. My D&D one was pretty big before I shut it down, when I like came out as trans and like threw the whole world on over. I was like, let's start over. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Well, thank you so much for having me today. Like, this is like so much fun. I love just
Yeah.
having a chat with you and getting to know you a little more, and great.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting to know you a little more. And I would love Sudra to come on too. Just for the record,
Oh,
let
yeah.
him know.
He'd be all over that. And he's a great talker. I'm not so much a great talker. I'm very quiet, so it's hard for me to come up with all these things to say, but I think I'm doing okay.
I think you're doing really good. And I see the neurodivergence, and that I see like the process. And then the words that come out of your mouth are beautiful. Like the things you say
Oh,
are so in line and they're so measured.
I just hate that I always mess up my words, and then I get self-conscious about that.
Oh, I do it all the time too. I think that's a big part of why I intentionally don't edit them out of some of my content. Like when I do my shorts and stuff, I'll be like, oh, I'll just leave it in there. Because like I want to tear down the wall. I want to tear down the wall on social media between fake and real.
Absolutely. Authenticity is the new whatever it used to be, because people are tired of seeing fake. They know it's fake.
Yeah.
It's like, give me something authentic, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me real people. And that's
Yeah.
why I was like, no, like there's an upper limit on people coming on here. Because like I don't just want to talk to people who are like huge in the scene or whatever. If I get there, sure, then I'll have those conversations. But right now it's like, no, let's get the real people speaking, because the real people are where the most real things in the world are happening, right? Like you're on disability and you're working part-time to make ends meet, and I'm sure you're just barely doing that, right?
Yeah.
Just like most of us are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see that chart where they had like, here's the average wage in the US, and then here's the average wage if you take the top 10 people out, and the top 100 and the top 1,000, and like it went from like
Oh.
55,000 if the top 10 people are $55,000 a year ish if the top 10
Yeah.
people are included. When it dropped to excluding the top 10 earners in the US, it dropped to like 35,000.
Wow. That's not
So
surprising.
yeah. So 10 people are adding $20,000 to the annual wage. Like, that means there's 1 million people who are making significantly less than that. Yeah. And, like, people need to remember that, like, we're all just doing this. My house is a neurodivergent hovel. I've got my
me
doom
too.
piles and my dirty spots on my floor, and I clean it all up. But this wall is half my kid's art.
Yeah.
It goes all up here
I
too.
love that one.
Thanks. Yeah, I thought it was a good idea. I did steal it from someone. I actually stole it from my co-parents partner. I was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that. As they tore theirs down and moved. I was like, haha, I have my wall and they don't. But yeah, like the kids bring back so much art. And like, I just thought it sucked to just like throw it out or put it in a box for them to go through later. So they actually have chosen every single piece that's gone on this wall.
Nice. It's like a little gallery.
Yeah, it is. This one's new. Ah, I'm so sorry. It's a little origami puppy.
Oh, nice.
And then these pictures I got from my mom. And this was when I first came out, I was like, I'm gonna dive into goth girl super hard. So I like replaced my wardrobe and got this little coffin shelf, which did have things on it. My kids have taken them.
Perfect for like rocks and crystals and.
Yeah, I should definitely put some in there. I had a bunny that my son had painted in there, and it became a toy. So
Okay.
yeah, it's just kids in life, right?
Yeah.
He's like, no, I painted this. It's mine. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Take it. Go have fun. One day I'll find it. It'll be in one of his doom piles, I'm sure. Yeah. I think we've had a great conversation, and I think it's a good ending point for the podcast. So again, thank you so much. I will make sure I have all your details down below, but if you want to tell people where they can find you, it would be great.
Sure. You can find me on Facebook, Needy Neurodivergent, on TikTok, Needy_neuro_divergent. And now I'm on other socials too, but those are my main ones.
That's fair. What other ones are you on, just in case?
Well, I have Discord now. I have Instagram and YouTube as well. So.
Oh, right on.
Not a lot on YouTube yet, but
yeah, I'll have to subscribe to you because I wasn't aware. Do you have like a Linktree in your profile where I can find that, or?
I do, yeah.
Those are game changers. I
And
love those.
the Facebook group is in there as well. Nice little click the link and you're in.
That's definitely what I'm going to do then. I'm going to do it right after we get off of here. Well, wonderful. Sweet. Thank you so much. So yeah, that's where we were at. That was the conversation I had with Beck. I hope you really enjoyed it. Going through and editing it and listening to it again, I really enjoyed it. And I got to just sort of participate in that conversation again as a third party, and it was great. I see even more now how that Time Master just kind of stepped in, and it's just sort of life, right? We got to keep going and we got to keep moving through, and every single one of us can make a difference. So if you like this, you can make a difference by hitting that like button, giving it a subscribe, leave a comment, and just say your piece on it. And all of that means so much to me. And don't forget to check the description for Beck's details. Thank you so much. That's it. That's all. Peace, love, and unicorns. Later, Gators.